One of the questions that I am often asked is joint tenancy good or is it bad? And I can tell you, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and sometimes it's very, very bad. It's like the little girl. The little girl, when she is good, she is very, very good, and when she is bad, she is horrid. So let's talk a little bit about joint tenancy. Where it's good, it's very good. For example, if this is a small estate, say a bank account and a home with an equity of, let's say, $30,000 or $40,000, the two spouses that love each other can put their house in joint tenancy, and that works just fine until the first death. After the first death, notice there's no joint tenant to survive the second death. So something then has to be done at the second death, but it certainly works great through the first death. Now, the problems we get into that are pretty heavy are after the first death. Let's say what statistically it's going to be the wife survive. Not always, but let's assume she does. She's now a widow, and she realizes one day, oh, the title is all in my name. What happens if I die? I better plan. But of course, she's worried about attorney's fees, and so she decides she'll do what her neighbor did, which was grab her nearest child, have lunch with them, and then do something there. So our lady calls her friend, her daughter. They go to lunch, and at lunch she says, if something happens to me, I want you to take care of my estate. The daughter says, okay, what? Anything, Mom, anything you want. Then mother said, well, what worked well on your father's death was to put it into joint tenancy. So I want to go make you joint tenant on my house and on my bank account. Well, okay, Mom, says the daughter, and if something happens to me, says the mother, then will you divide the property equally among you and your siblings? Oh, sure, Mom, I'd be happy to do that. So they have a nice lunch. After lunch, they go to the title office. They change the deed over to joint tenancy with the mother and the daughter. They go to the bank. The daughter signs signature lines. They don't realize that at that point, Mom doesn't realize at that point that the daughter can withdraw all of her money without asking permission, having done that. But most daughters are honored, but not all. What we're finding is that arrangement produces cases that get to the Utah Supreme Court every year. Because what happens when Mom dies? The daughter, in some cases, forgets the commitment she made, and there's no evidence anywhere of what the commitment was. The only witness that could challenge her is deceased. So some daughters are just too much tempted by that, and they say, well, I'm the one that took care of Mom, and she intended me to have it all. If that happens, the courts are going to generally rule with the daughter because she has, after all, the record title showing that she's the owner. So that's where joint tenancy becomes bad, because you notice the siblings are left with letting the daughter get away with it or starting a big ruckus fight within the family that will probably destroy relationships permanently. Not a good outcome. So if they opt for the litigation, then I would rate joint tenancy as very bad. But it could be worse. Let's suppose that, for example, after lunch, mother and daughter have completed changing the title to the house and the bank account, and they're driving home down River Road, and there's a horrible accident. Mom dies instantly at the scene, but the daughter is taken to the hospital. Now notice, under joint tenancy law, the daughter now owns all of the property. But she's very sick, and before her injuries are serious, and before the surgeons can do much, she actually dies at the hospital. Now it happens, I didn't tell you this before, but it happens that the son-in-law, the daughter's husband, is one of those proverbial son-in-laws you don't want to know. He does everything bad. He has engendered a great distrust with Mom before, and the last person she would give something to would be that son-in-law. But who gets the property? Who gets Mom's property now under joint tenancy? It goes to the son-in-law because he's the heir of the daughter. So that's where joint tenancy is the worst of the worst of the worst. So what do I say? It has its place. It's a very limited place. And one still needs to worry about what to do after the death of the first joint tenant. The next video, if you happen to want to look for it, will be about the family LLC. Many of our families have one for several reasons. And what I would like to talk about is, so you have your family LLC, what next? What are the other things to worry about once you have it?